In my mind, Iago is easily the most interesting character in Shakespeare's Othello. He is fascinating to watch, and he would be an incredibly satisfying character for an actor to play. But if he were a real person, you really wouldn't want to know him. It is clear that Iago has some pretty significant psychological issues, and these manifest themselves in some severely antisocial and abnormal behaviours. Over the course of the play, Iago actively works to bring about the downfall of Othello. In order to do this, he lies to people and he manipulates people. We know that he is consciously aware of what he's doing because he often openly shares his thoughts and plans with the audience. And as a result of his actions, he is either directly or indirectly involved in the deaths of numerous characters. At the end of the play, when Iago is asked why he did what he did, he chooses to say nothing. But throughout the rest of the play, Iago is very clear about what he is doing and why. Within the first 8 lines of the play, we learn that the actions of Iago are motivated by his hate for Othello, and he reiterates his hatred at numerous other points in the play. One of the reasons that hate is interesting from a psychological perspective is because we know it is an incredibly powerful motivator for acts of violence and aggression. In regards to interpersonal relations, hate can be characterised by the extreme dislike of and an aversion to a person or group of people. It is also associated with thoughts or acts of violence and ill will and feelings of disgust and loathing. Like other emotions, hate has a valence or strength, which can vary. But while it is possible to be a little bit angry or scared or happy, we don't tend to think about someone hating someone else a little bit. Hate tends to be a fairly intense emotion, and at its most extreme, it can be very intense indeed. Furthermore, while other emotions can be experienced fairly passively and tend to be fairly fleeting, hate is interesting because it seems to require a long-term active commitment on the behalf of the individual experiencing the emotion. If something terrible happens to someone, if they are raped or robbed or injured, it is understandable that they might feel hatred towards the person or people that they believe are responsible for these acts. However, it is also possible for an individual to feel hatred towards a person or group without ever having had any meaningful interaction with them whatsoever. It is possible to hate a person or a group of people simply because you've been told that hating them is the right thing to do. One of the effects of hate is that it devalues or dehumanises the person or people being hated, and as a result of this, it becomes much easier to justify any acts of violence or malice towards this hated other. We see all of this in the actions of Iago. He hates Othello because Othello gave Cassius a job that he felt he was entitled to. And because of this hatred, Iago is strongly motivated to harm or kill Othello, and he is able to use this hatred as a justification for his murderous actions, which impact on numerous other characters. Of course, Iago is not a real person. He is a character in a play, but we live in a world in which hate exists. And if we want to understand why some humans do terrible things like murder or other forms of violence or terrorism or genocide, then we need to understand more about the psychology of hate. And if we know more about the types of situations and ideologies that foster hate, then perhaps we can prevent these terrible things from happening.